A new 3D model of Hagia Sophia has been produced and is available, I believe, in Greece. And this is the most extraordinary photographs are appearing on the internet from this. It was it was a building that was built very quickly between 532 and 537. Hagia Sophia, meaning holy wisdom. It was one of the names given to God. Oddly, a name which is feminine, and it's it is the most extraordinarily impressive building even today when you go around it. It's very big. That sense of grandeur, that sense of size is impossible to avoid. I went around it last before it was turned back into a mosque. I think there's something rather wonderful about it being a place of prayer, whether that's for Greek Orthodoxy or whether that's for Islam. The first structure, the first version of Hagia Sophia fell to pieces in riots in 404, and the second church, dedicated by the Emperor Theodosius, burned down during another riot in 532. And then the Emperor Justinian I ordered the church to be rebuilt, and the architects, Anthemius of Thrales and Isidoros of Miletos, used the principles of Archimedes to build this astonishing structure that has withstood earthquakes and withstood further riots and further wars. It was sacked by the Fourth Crusade by the ridiculous Westerners who were supposed to go to Jerusalem and found themselves in Constantinople, in Istanbul, and just went wild and raided the place. That's why you've got the four horses in St. Mark's. Those horses belong in Istanbul. And it's just what is extraordinary about this digital redesign, this digital recreation of the original church, is that it restores something of the iconostasis. You can see where that is with the bishop's throne behind. This extraordinarily bright light, which isn't something you recognize when you go around Hagia Sophia today. It seems quite gloomy. But the original building was always described as being filled with light, as being filled with gold, as being radiant, like having paradise anchored on earth. And the first dome, this amazing dome over the center of Hagia Sophia, that collapsed. I mean, the whole of the history of this church is of collapse after collapse after collapse. That collapsed in 558, and then it was rebuilt in 562, and it was even bigger, and it survived, and it was quite extraordinary. When I was at school, we had a church which was based on Hagia Sophia, so a modern building, which many people derided. I thought it was spectacular, but of course rather minimally decorated. What a church of that Byzantine grandeur requires Byzantine decoration. And the interior of Hagia Sophia was panelled with costly coloured marbles with ornamental stone inlay, with decorative columns that were taken from even older buildings from ancient Greece and Rome, used to support these striding arches, and gold, gold, gold everywhere. And during the period of iconoclasm, which is something that I think should interest us at the moment, this is from 726 to 842, there was an attempt to try and avoid pictorial images or images of people, but at the same time, there was a great delight in pattern, and that of course was inspired by the patterns and by the delight in pattern that eventually flowers in Islamic design in the work of, for example, Sinan, the architect, who took over the architecture of Hagia Sophia and added the minarets and pretty well set the seal of what it is to build a mosque, the modern mosque, the Sinan Mosque, which he created in so many places throughout Turkey, modern Turkey, was very much inspired by the original architecture of Hagia Sophia. And after Mehmed II's conquest of the city in 1453, Hagia Sophia became a jami, became a mosque, and remained so until the fall of the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century after the First World War, and the rise of Ataturk, who turned it into a museum. And it's and that decision to become a museum in, I think, 1934 was overturned by Mr. Erdogan. He said it was a grave mistake that the place was no longer used for worship. I entirely agree with him. But I also think that not only should it be reinvigorated, revived as a centre for Islam, it should also be revived as a centre for Orthodox Christianity. Though how that would work in the context of the Islamic prohibitions on the depiction of the human figure, I don't know, and it would be very complex. But those great icons of Christ, of the Madonna, the Virgin of Tenderness, are there, and it is a monument to creativity as much as it is a monument to Christianity, and then after 1511, a monument to the brilliance of Sinan, the architecture and the architect, and a monument to Islam and to the creativity of the Ottomans. But I think it is wonderful to see these digital recreations of what Hagia Sophia must have looked like inside. We've often seen attempts to create Hagia Sophia from the outside, but I've never seen anything like this from the inside. And this picks up the view of Hagia Sophia, I think, from just before the Fourth Crusade, where you can see the iconostasis, where you can see the bishop's throne, and so much of that glitter, so much of that magnificence was destroyed during the Fourth Crusade. And when Michael VIII Palaiologos reconquered the city, he ensured that Hagia Sophia was restored, but it never quite got back to what it had been. And this is, I think this is a wonderful attempt at a recreation, and it's well overdue, frankly, in my mind. Well overdue.